Now, the U.S. and Iran have ended the latest round of talks on Iran's nuclear program with no agreement. But mediators say the indirect negotiations in Geneva made significant progress. More talks are due in Vienna next week. They're seen as a last chance to avert renewed U.S. military action against Iran. Washington accuses the regime of wanting to build a nuclear weapon, something Tehran denies.
The world's largest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, leaves the Greek island of Crete to head to the Middle East. This is just part of the biggest American military buildup in the region since the invasion of Iraq over 20 years ago. The US currently has a number of warships within close proximity to Iran and a number of military bases hosting aircraft in the region. Reuters confirmed that one of the vessels off the coast of Oman was the USS Abraham Lincoln after it analysed satellite imagery. Speaking earlier this week during his record-breaking State of the Union address, US President Donald Trump made clear what threat his administration thinks Iran poses.
They've already developed missiles that can threaten Europe and our bases overseas, and they're working to build missiles that will soon reach the United States of America. After Midnight Hammer, they were warned to make no future attempts to rebuild their weapons program, and in particular, nuclear weapons, yet they continue.
Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian says his country is not seeking a nuclear weapon. But Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi told Iranian television on Wednesday that while they are willing to talk, they do have their own red lines.
We are ready to answer questions. We are ready to remove concerns, but we are not ready to give up our right for peaceful use of nuclear technology. This is what we demand.
Iran has threatened escalation in the wake of any American attack. This footage of Tehran's military drills was shown on Iranian state television earlier this week. No doubt a warning to those watching in Washington.
Let's take a closer look at this now with author and journalist René Wildangel. He's an expert on the Middle East. René, as we just saw, there's a massive buildup of American military assets around Iran. How likely do you think it is that the U.S. will attack?
Well, good morning. That's the key question. And I think just because of this military might that we're seeing, most people assume that we will see some kind of attack, because otherwise, why would this massive military force be assembled in the region? On the other hand, I think what we're not so often talking about is the American debate on the issue. We've seen in recent days polls that only 27% of Americans actually support an attack on Iran. We're also seeing action in Congress. There's a debate scheduled for Tuesday that might limit Trump's, or at least try to limit Trump's power to attack. And then there's also Trump's own base. And Trump came into presidency promising to end America's forever wars. So that's the big question mark. And Trump has gone far, assembled all this military might, but he's also facing some resistance at home. So what is the way forward to him to declare victory, as he usually wants to do?
Meanwhile, negotiations are continuing. There's another round of talks expected next week. What exactly is being negotiated between the U.S. and Iran?
Well, that's part of the problem, and it's very contradictory, because we're seeing exclusive talks about the nuclear program. We are seeing more or less technical talks about enrichment. Yes, they go further than the discussions of the past, but in the end, we had a nuclear agreement in 2015 that was relatively successful in providing some kind of transparency regarding the Iranian nuclear agreement, and that is the nuclear program. And that is an agreement, the 2015 JCPOA, that Trump walked away from. So now he's talking again about the nuclear issue. But then, as we have heard, he's talking about many other issues too. He's talking about the ballistic missile program and says Iran is building missiles that can hit the United States. He's also talking about regime change. So these are issues that go far beyond the negotiations. And even if there is an agreement on the nuclear agreement, I cannot see how that would satisfy Trump's claims that go much further than this, and I don't think such an agreement would settle the prospect of a military escalation.
The French newspaper Le Figaro is reporting on alleged plans earlier this year to overthrow Iran's supreme leader. It was also earlier this year that we saw the brutal crackdown by the regime on protesters, with some say 10,000 people being killed. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I don't think it's new. We've seen these speculations before, and they were certainly there during the escalation in 2025 in June, the 12th-day war. Khamenei was hiding in an underground bunker at this time. And yes, if Trump talks about regime change, that also means targeting potentially the Iranian supreme leader. How that might succeed if such an attack going to happen, if it's realistic to remove Khomeini, and even if he would be removed, we don't know the scenarios that would come after this. And the big question is this something that will really serve the interests of Iranians? Because Iranians, after the brutal crackdown that you mentioned, they certainly want this regime to go. They want Khamenei to go. But if that is possible through military might, it's highly doubtful. I think Iranians don't want to see military escalation. They want a change. They want an end of this repression. But I think they want to achieve it through different means.
René, thank you very much. That was Middle East expert René Wildangel.
Thank you.